Okay, thanks for joining me again, everyone. Welcome, welcome. This is Tarot with Whimsy. I do Tarot. I'm an empath, or what we like to call a sensitive. I know a lot of people watching this channel also have sensitivity talents, so that's cool. There is a science to all of this. I'll do a whole video as to how human beings are able to sense and pick up information about one another. I'm really skeptical personally about psychic phenomenon. I'm trained in the sciences, so I'm always looking for a logical explanation for why what we call psychic phenomenon actually works. And I think it has to do partly with how our brains pick up data. And I think we're now starting to realize that our brains are very good at picking up data and nuances and collecting the information in ways that we had not previously understood. And that this is far more vast and complicated than we currently understand. And that falls into the category now of what we call psychic phenomenon. But it works because our brains are part of kind of like a network. I think of it as a hive mind, that we are all individuals, we all have free choice, but we are also part of the collective, or what Carl Jung called the collective consciousness. And it's kind of like a hive of bees that's all flying around together. Its nature is empathy, so the collective consciousness is incredibly empathetic. And we are influenced by one another, but we do not control one another. And this is where I deviate from the New Age movement, because the New Age movement is kind of malignant narcissism and traumatized people who grow up and want to believe that with their thoughts they can control the will of other people. And this is kind of how 5-year-old children think, right? Their parents get a divorce, and then a 5-year-old child is traumatized and believes, wow, I did something wrong, and that's why mommy and daddy broke up. So these traumatized people grow up, and then they get involved in religious or spiritual communities that tell them that it's all their fault and that they control things with their mind. So instead of it being a spiritual path, it's really just an expression of trauma and being trapped in the mindset of being 5 years old, because 5-year-olds are egocentric and they think everything is about them. So that's kind of my take on the New Age movement. Instead, the hive mind, which is more of what it looks like from an energetic perspective when you start doing remote viewings, is a lot more interesting in the sense that we are empathetic and connected to one another. At the same time, any one of us can choose, through taking personal responsibility for our lives, to be movers, to be influencers. And if we can influence one person, then that person goes on to influence one other person or 2 other people. Over time, we have a movement, and that movement can exact change in the world. So it's more proactive. I don't believe in fate. Rather, it's just a series of choices that we make, and we influence one another. We influence the hive mind. And when there's a tipping point, we see change. So what a remote viewer does is we simply get into the hive mind. We connect to that part of our minds that's connected and wired into everybody else's. And we see what we can find. Somebody had emailed me and asked, I believe her name was Teresa. Excuse me, I can go back and look. She wanted to know if I could connect with people from the past. Actors do this. As a remote viewer, I do this. I study everything I can about a particular subject, and then I go into a deep state of relaxation, and then my brain puts all the information together. Now, there's an aspect of that is just the science of connecting to the parts of your brain that are connected to everything else, that are putting data together. But then there's an aspect of the mind that we don't totally understand that seems to be able to be collecting data outside of simply your own personal experiences. And that is the realm, that jump from one's own personal experiences to going outside of one's personal experiences, is the jump that scientists are studying, which is the capacity to be a remote viewer. Now, there's been some studies out of Israel that I'm aware of where they have tested remote viewers. They've done actual studies using people that were not professional remote viewers, simply hiding things in a particular location and then trying to see if the person can sense or feel their way to finding the hidden thing. That is exactly how remote viewing works. You get into a very relaxed state, and then you connect with, in your mind, the energy of the thing you're trying to locate, and then you let yourself be carried energetically to that thing you're attempting to tune into. That is, in a nutshell, what I do with a remote viewing. So last night I connected again energetically. I was thinking about Putin and tuning in with Putin, and specifically I wanted to connect with Putin's relationship with his oligarchs. And it was a really cool remote, in the sense that I was able to connect with how he thinks. And what Putin's energy had said was that he views the oligarchs that he puts into power as children. They are children. And a child must be, they're babies. This is what he said to me. He said that the oligarchs he has now in power are babies. They are babies, and like babies, they must be fed, they must be nurtured, they must be loved, and they must be taught, and they must be trained. And he seemed to be amused by this. Putin is amused. He finds this funny. And so at night, when the lights of Moscow are dimmed, and he is looking at all of his data and all of his computers, and he is watching the world from Moscow, he likes to just check in on all of his oligarchs, all of his kingdoms, his little kingdoms that he's building, and he nurtures them like a papa is nurturing a baby. How is my baby in America doing? How is my baby in Brazil doing? How is the baby in Poland doing? Do we need to change the baby? Do we need to feed the baby? What does the baby need from the papa? So it's a very bizarre world, and Putin just sees himself as the papa nurturing the babies, the mama bird with the baby who feeds them and nurtures them, and fly, be free from the nest, but first I have to train you to exactly what I want you to do. So he laughs about this. He thinks that this is very funny. Then I tuned in to Theresa May, and the impression I got from that was that the writing is on the wall. She can't leave right away, no contest, because there's some unfinished business that has to be taken care of in terms of the Brexit vote. I'm going to go ahead and I'll throw cards on Brexit now. But the impression that I got looking at her energy was that her goose is cooked, and she's going to stick around, no contest, because she's got the votes to stick around. But the private conversations she's having with people that are friends of hers, the Tories that are having conversations with her, in the next 2 to 3 days, it's looking like more and more the writing is on the wall that she needs to step down. And those are private conversations, and but she's got some stuff to do, some meetings to go to. She's already committed to attending certain meetings, but the writing is on the wall for her, and in the next 2 to 3 days she'll be making that decision. So that was the remote I got on Theresa May. But she's still got enough votes not to be kicked out. However, I do think in the next 2 to 3 days she will choose to step down. She's really holding on, but for the good of the party, she is going to be asked by the people close to her to step down. Let's take a look at the card. So the base cards, always 2 base cards with whimsy. Receive fighting back, resistance with May. Fighting back, also pressure to answer questions regarding international contracts. Trying to heal the situation. Offers of healing from the EU. This is a healing card, but energetically it feels like it looks like Britain owes money, and they need to there are a lot of contracts I'm seeing as I remote view this. As I remote view this card, I'm seeing contracts between Britain and other countries, and they need to get paid, and they need to know what the future of those contracts are going to be between them and Britain. And so the remote view interpretation is that they need to get an answer, and they need to get an answer now. going back to the negotiating table, talking to people, trying to smooth out. You know what I really like about this card chart already is I like that page of Pentacles, or excuse me, the Page of Cups coming in, which is a healing card. I like that card coming up for Theresa May and for Brexit right now, because it shows a willingness on the part of the EU to work with Great Britain. But Eight of Swords is binding, it's crossing, it's going over, which is to be tied in knots. They've really put themselves in a pickle. By doing this, Great Britain has created something of a disaster, because they did Brexit in stages and they've already cut contracts and put contracts on hold. And so consequently, they've actually tied themselves into a disastrous situation, particularly if Brexit falls. Meanwhile, these new contracts and old contracts are in limbo. See how many cards are coming up here about being trapped, bound up. These are all cards about feeling cornered, bound up, tied up, in a corner. What has been... See, I don't even know how Brexit works. I'm a typical dumb American. I just see contracts on hold. I just see the remote. And then somebody, if you're from England, if you can tell me what I'm looking at, that would be great. Nobody can... It's on hold. And also, they had contracts they were ending and contracts they were beginning, and companies are not getting paid. That's what it looks like. Nobody knows what is my future with England. You know, are we going to work together or not? What's the context of how this is going to go forward? I would love for somebody to explain to me what the hell I am seeing. The Star card. Wow, you know, this is not looking good here. In terms of Britain's economy, there's abandoned contracts here. They tied themselves legally in a bit of a mess. They need somebody to come in and clean this mess up, because they're actually worse off as a result. All this is a disaster. What people don't understand when I go into this energy, it's a disaster. It's like every single contract with every single major company and every single country that had contracts with those businesses, they were creating an exit strategy or a new contract, and now all of those contracts are on hold because Brexit's on hold. So nobody knows what's happening. Meanwhile, some of these contracts have already been taken. I hope the British that are watching this, could you please explain to the dumb American what the hell I'm seeing? Because I would love to know. New beginnings, new contracts. But it means that all of this stuff they've already agreed to and are tied up in has to be completely unraveled. The sooner that they can vote again, the better, because what a mess. I'm seeing a mess. That's the best way for me to tell you what I see. This is a freaking mess. What a disaster. They have really tied themselves up. Any hopes of a deal are over. Here's international trade again. Hopes and fears. Confusion. Nobody knows what the heck is going on. Final outcome. I think if I were to predict now, I would say that this does not look like there's going to be a Brexit, because the World card came up as the final outcome. Change is probably happening in springtime around, because this is my spring card. I use this as a spring card to give me a date, because it's the time when the first leaves are beginning to sprout. This usually comes around March, April. And then here again, the 4th, I also read this as the 4th month, April. So new beginnings, new contracts starting in March, April of 2019, new growth, new beginnings. Look at this. This is an open travel. This is open border. They're going to have to clean this mess up. And probably if the people of Britain were able to make a decision today, Brexit would collapse, and instead I see open trade and almost a sigh of relief. So I'm going to go ahead and tentatively say that it's a mess. Again, if any of the Brits could explain to me what I'm seeing, because I'm in the energy and I see it, I just don't understand what I'm seeing. Contracts on hold, contracts in limbo. Nobody knows where they stand. They don't even know who they can have a contract with. The government, the British government, the companies that they're doing business with are tied with the governments that are part of the EU. So that's what the confusion is that I'm seeing. That's what I'm getting swirled around with. They have literally signed contracts that have tied them in a knot like a mummy, and now they can't get out of them. You see? Defense, fighting, in a knot, trapped. What a nightmare. So, but the good news is it opens up in March, April. We're going to see movement, and then everything opens up again, which is great. You see the spring card coming in, 4 of Wands, which is beautiful energy coming in April. New growth, particularly in August. Things are, honestly, I'm going to go ahead and be optimistic and say by summer of 2019, things are going to be a lot better for Britain. And look, isn't this great? Yay, world card. Let's do a clarification. Let us do a clarification, and let's see when we clarify. Money. The decision ultimately was about money. They couldn't financially afford the deal that they were creating. This is frugality. This is physical conservatives. The money isn't there even to... It's expensive. The Brexit would have been really expensive, walking away from the contract. I think May be stepping down. Whoa, hopes and fears. Final outcome, good money. Money coming. All right, so the interpretation would be that I don't see this. Look, I don't think Brexit's going to happen. I think there could be a new vote. I think the new vote could start as early as February, March, April, and I think that it's going to be voted down, and I think that they are going to, as quickly as they can, create new contracts, do what they can to dissolve the contracts that they were already creating, because there's a lot of trade not happening. Everybody's on hold. That's what it looks like from a remote perspective. So I'm going to go ahead and close this reading because we've already been talking for a while. Thanks for watching, everybody. I really enjoy doing these remotes. If you need me to spy, I paid my way through med school by being a remote viewer. What can I tell you? If you are looking for a reading, the information is below the video. And it's on the same website as for people who make appointments to see me as a doctor. But you'll just see my full name and then tarot readings if you want to set up an appointment. I am here in Los Angeles, so just also take into consideration that it's Pacific Coast Standard Time. All right, thanks for watching, everybody. Be sure and share, like, subscribe. Tell me what you like about remote viewing, and tell me what you'd like me to remote in the future. Thanks for watching, everybody. Bye.